Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Addison. I am a columnist and editor with the Long Beach Post, and I am honored and privileged to have the guests that we have on today. We have Robert Cano, the founder of the Q Film Festival, arguably one of the city's most influential and most growing film festivals, especially over the past 10 years. We are going to be here to discuss the history of Q Films, and particularly what I want to personally start off with before we delve into that rich history is the importance of having a queer event in a time where a lot of our queer spaces, at least for me, bars, clubs, are closed. Robert and I discussed earlier, for those not privy to the queer community or not part of it or not an ally, gay spaces are spaces where we often meet our extended family. For those who are unfortunate enough to have their families with them or, God forbid, removed from their families for coming out, these spaces often provide them the foundation to have a mentally healthy living situation. And right now that's been essentially cut off. So, Robert, I want to begin with the idea that, applause to you guys for getting a film festival during the pandemic. Was this a reason for you guys assuring that this film festival will get off the ground, is the fact that there's now this disconnect between safe spaces for queers and access to queer content?
Absolutely, Brian. Right from the get-go, we were wrapping up the film festival, our lineup and sponsorship and all of that important stuff that comes along with putting on the film festival. And absolutely, we were like, you know what? It was back in May, early May, and we were like, you know what? We're not even going to have Pride this year. There are going to be no Prides this year, period. So hats off to my board. I have to give them credit because without them, this would be impossible. I kind of took the leadership role, but, hats off to them. And that was very important to us to put this on. It was never a question if we're going to put it on, is when are we going to put it on? And I think we're actually one of the few film festivals out there that stuck to their dates. Everybody was changing their dates around, scrambling for dates. And we were like already in May saying, no, this is going to happen. We don't know how it's going to happen. If we have to broadcast something on a wall or something, or I don't know, out into the sky, we didn't know, but we did know that our community absolutely needed this. They needed that connection, as you say. Queer spaces are so important to us. That's where, our families sometimes does not accept us, and we go find our queer families there. I have found many of my partners and exes at these queer spaces, my enemies, my frenemies, my friends, my, whatever. They're so important to us, these queer spaces. And they've been taken away from us. So right from the get-go, we were like, this is going to happen. We don't know how it's going to happen, but we are going to make it happen. And we kept the focus that we were putting this on for our community because it's such a beloved film festival. And it was never a question if it's going to happen. It's going to be when it's going to happen. And you know what's so awesome about it, Brian, that our little local film festival is now going to be broadcast. Listen to me, I'm still talking about TV, but the new term, I guess, is streaming. But what's so awesome is that our film festival is going to be streamed not only to Long Beach, not only to Southern California, not only in California, but it's going to be streamed throughout the world. And the reason that that's happening is because a lot of we're showing films from 16 different countries. And a lot of these filmmakers, like from India, Brazil, England, were saying, hey, am I going to be able to watch my film? And we were like, we don't know. Let's check up on that. So we checked up with our streaming service, Inventive, and they said, absolutely, if you can get the film rights for these films to be shown worldwide, we can stream these films worldwide. So how cool is this? Our little film festival from Long Beach, California is now going to be streamed worldwide.
Well, and and I don't want to get too loquacious with this point, but forgive me if I do. For the younger queer audience out there, what I want to emphasize with this idea that we're talking about with representation in space is that, for youth, Robert started this, guys, at the height of the AIDS pandemic. For those who don't know, we lost an entire generation of our community, and to be able to see oneself represented in other forms of art not only provided a sense of hope, but really did help kind of coalesce our movement to get a singular voice going forward, to fight for political battles. So the fact that now we have a queer film festival that is going beyond the United States and going into other areas of the world, which are still fighting for certain queer rights that we have been blessed with, I really want our younger audience to understand that we are truly blessed to be in the situation where we're at right now, where we live in a city that's very queer friendly. We have a ton of queer spaces, and we have a queer festival that's now becoming international.
And to go along with that, we're showing the documentary, Welcome to Chechnya. This documentary was really hard to get for obvious reasons. HBO required it. But the committee again said, we have to show this film. It is such an important film and documentary. Do you want me to talk over it or just let it?
Please talk about the film.
Okay. The reason being, like you said, we've got accustomed, and some of us take, not all of us, but some of us take our rights for granted. There are still 70 countries where it's illegal to be gay or LGBTQ plus. It's illegal. 10 of those countries, you can literally get killed for being who you are, LGBTQ plus. So this documentary is just a searing, amazing, important, and relevant documentary of what is going on in other countries to our community, where we can still be killed for the fact we just are who we are. It was an important, very important documentary for us to show because it documents the fight and the flight that these queer people in these countries are trying to get out of. There's this Rainbow Underground coalition that comes out of Canada, and what they do is they raise funds, and for every $10,000 that they raise, they're able to get a queer person out of these countries where they can literally be killed for being who they are and try to rescue them. So this is a very relevant and important film that I think is very universal for our community and really speaks to our community and reminds us, these rights can be in danger. These rights can be stripped off one by one, very methodically. And, it's scary. And I am so proud that our committee fought for this film. It's we're one of the few film festivals that is actually showing Welcome to Chechnya. So if you get a chance, please see this film. We're making it very available to anyone. It's $10 per the household. So if there's two of you, you can chip in $5 each. And I want to say that again, that unlike other film festivals, they make you buy the whole pass, which is like 60, 70, $80. We didn't want to do that. We didn't want to say, and I'm not going to say who those film festivals are because, know who they are out there. But right. But we're not going to make you buy a $60 pass to see one film. So if there's one film that you want to see or one program that you want to see, it's $10. So hopefully, that could be within your budget so you can see some of these films. And also what's really cool about these films, people really like the audience awards. So you will be able to pick your favorite film and have kind of an interactive experience. A lot of people are going to set up watching parties, so that's kind of cool too. You can watch them with your friends and then discuss them afterwards. So we're trying to make this film festival as interactive to our community because as you do, due to the pandemic, been kind of hard for us to talk about things and get together. So this is a very safe and healthy and a fun way to watch films. And 100% of the funds that we make from the film festival go right back into the center in our community. I am not a paid volunteer. I am a volunteer. I've been doing this for 27 years as a volunteer, as has also my support team in our committees. We all do this for free for our community. And, in spite of what's going out there, we keep our focus that we're doing this for the community. This film festival is bigger than me or anyone out there. So we're doing this for our community. And I want to talk about that, how I started this film festival. It was a challenge. It was not easy. It's still a challenge for us to get any coverage about this film festival in certain parts of California. The reason I started this film festival is a lot of my friends were dying. A lot of my friends that I came out with, who I met at the bars, were dying. You can't see it from here, but I can see St. Mary's from here. And they were one of the few places that actually had an AIDS ward. And I would go there and visit them. And, I became an expert at making chicken soup. It was a hard time and they were dying. And I was like, I have to do something for my community. We were being villainized by the media, the press. And I said, I was a volunteer at the Center Theater, at the Center, and there was a theater right next door. And I thought, I went to the 1993 March at Washington, D.C., and they had a film festival going on. So I came back and I told the board, hey, can we start a film festival? And in the middle of this pandemic, and they were like, sure, let's get some fresh new ideas. I went to the art theater and they were like, who are you? And I was like, I'm trying to get this gay lesbian film festival. I went to a couple of theaters in town and they're like, well, are you going to show pornos? Are you going to show smut? And all of a sudden I was labeled by some people as a smut peddler. Whatever. So I couldn't find a theater, but I had just graduated from Cal State Long Beach. And I remember they had this small auditorium at the student union that we used to watch films at. And I went to the Cal State Long Beach, and even there was a lot of red tape. Luckily, we had somebody who worked at Cal State Long Beach and had some inroads and got us that theater. So it was a challenge from day one. All of a sudden, I was called a lot of things, one of them being a smut peddler. I got, threats. My life was put in threat. Sometimes, we had this information line for the film festival and people would leave, threatening things on there, what they were going to do to me. And I was like, this is just to get information about the film festival. But you have to remember the temperature in the era that we were at, where we were being villainized by the press. And the first year that I put the film festival, we were getting all these submissions. And I said, for the first couple of years, we're going to focus on just showing the positive light of our community, which was very interesting because I was also talking with other people from from other film festivals, and some of them were Jewish film festivals. And they were telling me the first couple of years, just show positive stuff about your community. Say later on, you can show the whole diaspora, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything else. But, when you're starting a film festival, you want to portray positive images about your community. So that was part of our criteria the first couple of years.
I think it presents a good segue. It's kind of like a two-pronged entry into my next question. So, you're not obviously only facing the severe discrimination and massive misinterpretation of the queer community in the States at the time, politically, socially, media landscape. For people who've never been involved with a film festival, you don't just instantaneously get access to super great quality. You have to end up building a name, a brand, and relationships. And QFilms has done that. And for those who haven't experienced it, I feel a tinge of sadness this year because the quality of films that this festival has been getting, I would say over the past decade, has just been so stellar. And the experience of the festival itself is so beautiful. Like, would you go into how you built that brand against all these odds and the surge in quality that's been happening over the recent years?
Well, a lot of that is a lot of that quality just deals with the queer filmmakers that are out there. I'm sorry, I still have pronouns with issues with my pronouns. I'm still learning, so I'm just going to encompass the whole community. I'm not going to say LGBTQ plus. I'm just going to say queer.
I use the umbrella term queer,
if that's okay with you and the audience. As an older gay man, I'm still learning my pronouns, so please be patient with me. But I'm getting there. That is a reflection of all these strong, out and proud queer filmmakers that are out there, are doing their things. I mean, I'm a filmmaker and I make these awesome films on my little iPhone here. I have my iMovie app and I just do all kinds of really cool stuff with it. So I think a lot of it has to do with the technology, and also these queer filmmakers that are just out there just doing their thing unabashedly, unafraid. And that's what I love about this new generation. They're fearless. They don't have these constraints like, well, I can't do this because of this. I can't do that because of that. They're just unabashedly fearless. And I love that from them. And I'm still learning how to be more fearless because of this new generation that just doesn't have all these constraints that, and trauma, quite frankly.
That fearlessness has probably led to some of the new categories that are in this year's festival, right? Every year, the festival introduces a special new category. Do you want to elaborate on some of those new categories, which seem definitely geared towards the younger queer community of filmmaking?
We get these categories kind of make themselves up. We get so many submissions. We got over 300 submissions. That's a lot. We kind of grade them, review them. We have a whole 10 different categories of how to grade them, production, direction, acting, cinematography. There's a scale of 1 to 10. We have 10 of those categories and we kind of review them. So a lot of these categories kind of make themselves up. Due to what is happening in our country, we noticed a lot of activism films, a lot of, activists this, activists that. And we were like, that's a lot of activist shorts we're getting. So it kind of made itself. And we have a new program called, Queer Activist. And it's a pretty amazing program. And it's activists not only from the United States, but, we have activists from Brazil. And we have activists about our service members. We have activism about Dennis, the man who legalized cannabis. And also we have, a little bit of history thrown in there with the Stonewall, the making of a monument. So these films will inspire you, will entertain you. And
all the shorts in a single category for $10, right? So it's this.
Yes.
It's like
so you get 5 films for $10. So it's about $2 a film. So that's pretty awesome. And again, those funds go to the center, to our community.
And if you want a full weekend pass, that's also available, right?
Yes, the weekend pass is $50 and we're showing 50 films. So basically it's like $1 a film. Yeah. It's pretty good. And again, those funds go to our community. But I want to emphasize that if you don't have $50, but you can come up with $10, that $10 will get you a program. And if you have the $50, it's a donation to the center and you get to watch 50 films. That's $1 a film. Not a bad deal.
Amazing. Are there particular highlights that you personally would encourage people to go see?
Well, Welcome to Chechnya is just an amazing documentary. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets a nomination for Best Documentary Academy Award nomination. It's done by David France, who also who got an Academy Award nomination for another film that we're showing, is How to Survive a Plague. Another film that is, I can't say how relevant it is right now, but it's How to Survive a Plague. How did we survive the AIDS crisis? How did we get through it? How did we fight? How did we come together as a community, a queer community, and say, you know what? We're not gonna take Dr. Fauci's word for it. We're gonna fight for drugs. And it's interesting because Dr. Fauci is in there.
Really?
Yeah, he's.
What capacity? Is he involved with government health back during the AIDS epidemic?
Yeah, so Dr. Fauci's in there, and him and Larry Kramer are butting heads, and it's like, wow, interesting enough, Dr. Fauci and Larry Kramer became friends through that whole thing, and Dr. Fauci was like, well, let's listen to these AIDS activists. What do they have to say? What do they want? They're in the trenches, and it was interesting because Larry Kramer just died not too long ago, and Dr. Fauci was one of the last people who talked to Larry Kramer. That's how close they were.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very powerful documentary, and it's literally a guide to how to fight a plague, or for lack of better words, a pandemic, which is happening now. So it's interesting what we were doing way back then, we're doing now again. And it's interesting, I was reading the LA Times, and they're saying that people my age or older, gay people or queer people are having a less time with the pandemic, having a less mental stress with the pandemic, because we've been through this before.
We've already been through.
We've been through this, and we know what we need to do. Listen to the CDC, the experts, the scientists, Dr. Fauci, because they've been through this before. They're the experts. Somebody who throwing, conspiracy theories on YouTube is not an expert.
I will always emphasize this on another level, and I think it's already been emphasized in our conversation several times, but for the younger queer generation, you have to know your history. And the history of the AIDS epidemic is one that is both harrowing and haunting. And I want to reemphasize, we lost a generation of musicians, of costume designers, of playwrights, of writers, of artists, of creators that we wouldn't have known what they would have created right now because we lost them. So any documentary or film that focuses on that part of our history, I personally feel is so essential. And especially in this day and age where we're becoming more disconnected, both now physically, but also socially through the digitalization of communication, those type of films seem so pertinent to our current status.
It's so sad to me because we lost a whole generation of entertainers, queer writers, queer filmmakers, queer art. Queer art suffered for many a decade after that. I'm thinking, what kind of films will we be seeing right now if those queer filmmakers, hadn't died? Where would they have taken us? Where would that narrative be right now? It's like, for a while there, we were in a desert of LGBTQ plus queer art. I mean, there was such little art coming out. And it's sad. And this documentary is just, besides being life-saving, literally, documents a time and a place it will, I guarantee you, this documentary will inspire you in so many ways that you think you would not otherwise be inspired or even thought about, especially for the younger generation.
Do you think the COVID pandemic will affect content for next year's festival? I know that this year you said you had a deadline submission of May, so you got the majority of your submissions before the pandemic hit. Do you think it's going to affect the way the content that the film festival receives for next year?
Absolutely. They haven't been able to make much content or very little content for 6 months now. We start getting films in October. So we open our submissions in October. So all these filmmakers that otherwise would have been out there making films were not able to, or were very limited to how they can make the films. So, I mean, that's a very good question. What kind of content are we going to have next year? I mean, are we going to have to do retrospectives? Maybe a retrospective of queer films from the 90s, which were so important to the queer film community. So that's a very good question. How is our film festival going to look like next year? Are we even going to be at the art theater next year, or are we going to have to do it again online? That's a very good question, and it'll be interesting how it's answered.
Well, we are about to run out of time, so I want to end on a great and positive note. For those that don't know, this is the 27th year of the Q Film Festival, which means it's slowly approaching its 30th birthday. I really personally want to see it reach that milestone, and I think it will, but it can't do so without your support. So, Robert, do you want to remind people of how much tickets are, where they can get them, and how the films will be viewed?
Yes. So this is our 27th year. Tickets are $10 per program. On the shorts program, there's like 5 or 7 films. So you don't pay $10 for each film. You pay $10 and you get the whole shebang, the 5 through 7 films. Like, I'll give you an example. Dance Like Everyone Is Watching is a wonderful shorts, uplifting, happy program for the most part. And, you can channel your inner Beyonce, start dancing. And it will, believe me, it will get you to do that. Exactly. It's a wonderful program. There's 5 films in there, and, it's $10 for all those 5 films. Or you can get the pass, which is $50, and you can see all the programs, all the films, 50 films from 15 different countries. So you can travel the world around with this film festival. You can find information on QFilmsLongBeach.com. Let me say that again. Q like Queen, Films, FILMS, longbeach.com. You can get that, and what's going to happen is you're going to put your email in there, and you're going to get an email sent to your email address. And from then on, you can download the app, and you can watch it either on your laptop, your phone, your TV, and you can watch it all over the world. So if you're traveling somewhere, you still have access to the films. If you're traveling out of state, you can still watch them. If you're traveling out of the country, not sure if you want to do that, but if you have to.
Well, if our passport works in other countries.
Exactly. So it's really cool. You'll be able to watch it anywhere in California, anywhere in the U.S., and literally anywhere in the world. So, and again, all the money goes back to support this center and its services for our community.
Well, I thank you so much, Robert. I really appreciate it. I cannot wait to talk about the 30th Q Films. I think it's going to be awesome. I appreciate you and thank you for your time. And again, listeners, go out and watch the Q Film Festival. Tickets are now available. And thank you again.
Thank you, Brian, for everything you do for our community also.